Hey guys, Sandro here from Carcraft Auto Detailing in Melbourne. Today's video is a first look and review at the much anticipated, well at least for me, Flex XFE7-12 80. Now a few of you guys might know that I am a Flex tool fan, as their large rotary polisher has always been a favourite of mine, as the Flex VRG force rotation polisher was and is a machine that I truly respect and appreciate for both its unique ability to correct paint, but also for the company's innovation and forward thinking. I do however need to be honest in saying that the last Flex machine I bought, which was the full-size XFE7-15 dual action polisher, also known as the finisher, didn't really meet my expectations as to what I've come to expect from Flex. So the reason that I've been anxiously awaiting the company's first ever mini DA polisher is that I really want it to be great, just like the VRG and their rotaries. Also, I decided this time round not to read or watch any reviews on it when it was first released overseas, as the reviews I read and watched on the XFE7-15 last time round were quite misleading and honestly didn't reflect how the polisher truly performs. So in other words, I had no idea or expectations this time round when I picked it up a few days ago, and no misleading reviews or ratings to go by, just man and machine. So let's get to it by firstly just having a look and running through my initial thoughts of it just out of the box before turning it on. Also, just to have a comparison as to how it measures up in general to other mini DA polishers on the market, I'm going to be comparing it to my last Rupes LHR75 Mini and my current ShineMate EX603 Mini, as I still feel that Rupes is the benchmark for free spinning DA polishers and that ShineMate still represents the best value in free spinning DAs. But also because after spending hundreds of hours with these machines, I know how great they both are, and if the Flex can even match them in its performance, it'll also be a truly fantastic DA. Straight up, the first thing I noticed when I picked it up was its weight. Now, it's not like it weighs a ton, but compared to the ShineMate, which is 500 grams lighter, I did notice an obvious difference. But compared to the Rupes, it's less noticeable, only being about 100 grams or so heavier. Next is the length, which again isn't a massive difference, but it's a little longer than the others, as is the height of it from the backing plate to the hand grip, so it also sits a touch taller. So in other words, from weight to length to height, you do get a sense that it feels a touch bigger than the competition. As far as looks go, I might be biased, but I think it looks fantastic, and there's no mistaking it for anything but a Flex tool with its trademark red and black colours and design. And apart from the motor and gear cooling ducts being a little larger and more obvious, they also look really cool and aggressive. One feature that I do particularly like is the speed dial reading that's positioned on top so it can be clearly seen from above as you're working with it, unlike both the Rupes and the ShineMate, which forces you to either tilt the polisher up or squat down in order to see the speed dial. And the dial itself is also a little better, with a nice solid final click that, I gotta say, feels quite satisfying. But perhaps the best feature of all is the hand grip. Now Rupes uses white rubber inserts for your fingers to grip onto, which also look great in my opinion, and the ShineMate uses a simple rubber grey cover to give you grip. But unlike its competitors, there's this really handy lip on the rubberized hand grip that provides a space to grip with your fingertips, which seems like such a little thing, but once you get your hand and fingers onto it, it just feels right, and it seems to add a little more stability and control to your grip, and also feels quite comfortable with the larger rubber itself that extends further so you can change up your grip and still have your hand and fingers on the rubber grip. So let's fire it up. The power cord length, I'd say, is decent at 4 meters long, which is an improvement over the Rupes 3.3 meter cord. But I have to say that I love the 5 meter cord that the ShineMate Mini comes with, and in many cases it voids the need for an extension cord. The power switch is your standard Mini DA click on and off switch. However, it is a little different in that you firstly need to press it down, then slide it forward and tilt it down to lock it in place. It is a little different at first, but after a few goes it's really a non-issue, and I'm guessing it's more of a safety feature that will prevent the machine from accidentally switching on or allowing young kids to switch it on. Once fired up, as I run through the oscillation speeds and both feel and hear it running in my hand, it does bring a smile to my face. As with the gear in motion and the new Flex Mini DA turning over, it sounds about as quiet as any Mini DA I've tried, and it really does feel robust and rock solid, perhaps a little more than the competition. But I'll get into that a little more as we put it to work correcting paint. The backing plate is again a little different to its competitors, in that it doesn't have multiple ventilation holes for cooling, just the one center hole, and is also a little thicker and perhaps a little softer as well, with a bit more flexibility to it. The Velcro grip itself also seems quite good. Honestly, I never had an issue with the Rupes backing plate, as it seemed to provide good cooling and grip the pads quite well, and hold up over time. But I have to be honest in saying that the ShineMate backing plate could definitely have a little more grip to it, as over time it does lose its grippiness, which can lead to pads shooting off into outer space, especially with thicker pads once the backing plate and pad heat up. So let's get down to the real test and to what essentially really matters the most in any polisher on the market, which is its performance and ability to correct paint. But also important, especially for detailers that spend hours every day on these machines, is its user friendliness in relation to being smooth and non-fatiguing on your hands, arms and body. So as I'm giving it a run on this panel, I'm going to firstly continue a little about some more features and specifications, and then move on to how it's both feeling and performing. Just like the Rupes and ShineMate Minis, the Flex has a large 12mm orbit throw and fires up with a soft start to prevent product splatter. One great safety feature it has is that if the polisher becomes unplugged while in motion, it won't start up again, just being plugged back in. You need to flick the switch back off and then on again to fire it back up, which has been a past issue for me when I haven't switched my polisher off to find it spinning on its own as I plug it in. Another thing that is going to help some people that sometimes work their machines a little too hard or long is the overheating auto shut-off switch that will potentially save you from burning out or melting it through extended use, especially on those hotter days and environments, as is the safety overload switch it contains that's there not only to save your polisher from an electrical overload, but more importantly yourself. I also have to say that there does seem to be a little more technology in this new Flex, in that it tries to keep its speed constant while you're applying and reducing pressure as you polish or encounter curves. which is really a massive advantage in eliminating human inconsistencies and producing a more even and uniform level of correction and finish on the paint. Now, although Flex has placed its OPM speed or oscillations per minute at 3600 to a massive 10,800, it's really not oscillating at those speeds, at least not compared to how Rupes or any other manufacturer rates their OPM. Now, I'm not going to get into who's right or wrong, but after reviewing the Flex XFE7-12, which had a stated OPM range of 3200 to 9600, I did some research as those figures didn't translate into the polisher's real-time speeds. So it turns out that Flex's OPM rating, or how they measure this, is pretty much twice the speed of how other manufacturers measure and rate it. So 3600 to 10,800 OPM for the Flex Mini translates to more or less 1800 to 5500 OPM by industry standards. The Flex's top speed is more or less identical to both the Rupes and the ShineMate Mini DAs. However, its starting range of just 1800 OPM makes it the largest, as the ShineMate has a 2500 to 5500 OPM and the Rupes has a much smaller 4000 to 5500 range. Now, although I'm not going to turn down a larger speed range, honestly, it's not really a big factor for me in these circumstances. As I've said in the past, I don't really use the lower speeds on DA polishers, as they really don't spin or perform great in that range. So although the Rupes does have what might seem to be a limited OPM range, it's really the important OPM range that most of us will use just about every time. When it comes to power and the size of the motor, this is where the Flex leaps ahead. With a massive 700 watts contained in this little machine, it's significantly more power and torque than the Rupes 400 watt motor and even more than the ShineMate's 500 watts of power. I have to say that one thing I did notice initially with my ShineMate Mini over the Rupes was the increased torque and spinning action that makes the ShineMate difficult to stall on most panel curves and creases, although I can't really say that the Rupes was bad in that respect. Now, although the Flex does have 700 watts of power at its disposal, it is limited to 420 watts of output. And although I don't have figures of what the Rupes and ShineMate actually output in the way of power, I think it's safe to say at this stage that the Flex is the most powerful of the three, at least based on what I've experienced with it on paint and panel curves. But I'm also going to add that the ShineMate is barely a step behind, as they both are so close in that respect. The real difference that I'm seeing is the Flex just seems to work less hard, and just plugs along, whereas you seem to feel the Rupes and the ShineMate Minis working a lot harder to achieve the same thing. And I do think this is largely due to the increased motor size that only has to work a fraction of its power to achieve what the other polishers do at the limit of theirs. Now, one of the largest issues with any large throw dual action polisher is the heat they generate, especially on the pads and paint. This is why most backing plates do contain multiple holes to counteract this, but the concentration of that heat is always most prominent at the very center of the pad. So it would make the most sense to have the hole in the center of the backing plate, as the Flex has, to minimize and reduce that heat. Honestly, it's hard for me to say at this stage if the Flex and its backing plate design, together with its cooling effect, is really better. But I can say that it seems at least as good as the others and really does make more sense to have a center hole cut out rather than holes around the outer edge of the backing plate as the others do. But one thing I can say is that as a whole, the Flex XFE7-12 does seem to run cooler than the rest, but I don't think that that's just because of one thing or another. When you start to have a look and consider that it is a little bigger, you can appreciate that there's also a little more room for air to pass and cool its components, and the larger vents can work more aggressively to both suck air in and expel it at greater rates. Then consider that its larger motor doesn't work as hard as the smaller ones, as well as the center cutout in the backing plate, and it's all of these things that help reduce heat not only on the pads and paint, but you can feel the polisher itself running cooler. But all of that technical data and features aside, I want to now discuss how it performs and feels in a more real-world application and environment, as I've had the chance now to test it on a few different vehicles with diverse paint using a few different pads and polishes. Firstly, there's no doubting that it cuts well. In fact, very well. And being a mini DA, it does need to keep its rotation spinning where the larger DAs struggle. And again, it really does deliver on that front. Now it's not like it's leaps and bounds ahead of the pack, but I do really think that it's a slight front runner in that respect. So onto polishing and finishing paint. It's just a very poised and composed machine that really allows for consistent uniform finishing that's further aided by its intelligent speed regulator that helps eliminate fluctuations in speed as you work over diverse panels and sections. But again, I'm not going to use the words that many described the Flex XFE7-12 with, like game changer, as it's more of a step forward rather than something that'll take the industry by storm. One thing as well that's important in my book is how smooth these machines run and how friendly they are to you, especially after hours of use. Straight up, I think it's going to be a struggle to determine if the Flex is smoother than the Rupes, as they are both exceptional in that respect, whereas the ShineMate is by no means rough, but just not quite as smooth as the other two, nor is it as quiet. I think when you get down to it, the Flex is perhaps a touch smoother, but I also think that it's more due to its better rubber grip that absorbs more, and its slightly heftier build, which also helps reduce and contain the vibrations. However, when considering the weight you're holding up, especially over time, the Flex is slightly heavier than the Rupes, and they are both noticeably heavier than the ShineMate, which is definitely the winner on that front. When I get down to it though, I'm having to search to find fault in this new Flex Mini DA. It's not perfect and a winner in every respect, but seriously, it is a little gem of a machine and such a good step forward for the company, especially in comparison to their last, let's say, questionable machine. So I'm going to wrap this review and comparison up with a bit of pros and cons of the three machines I've been discussing, as like I said, no one machine or product has it all. So firstly is cost. At $545, the Flex does sit at a higher end of the market, but in comparison to the Rupes coming in at $590, the Flex is still cheaper. But throw the ShineMate into the mix at only $260, and that's a massive price difference. I also want to mention the warranty that each of these polishes come with, as apart from giving you some peace of mind, I also think it's a reflection of how much faith the company has in their product. Flex is the only company to back up their machines with a 2-year warranty, and that in itself is quite a statement. The ShineMate does come in second with an 18-month warranty, with the Rupes only offering a 12-month warranty for their polishes. I also want to give some quick history to hopefully shed some more light on these three fantastic polishes. Although I don't like throwing out this term unless it really is justified, the Rupes Mini DA was in fact a game changer 3 or so years ago when it first came out. There was just nothing to compete with it on its level, and quite honestly, I doubt that these two other polishes would even have existed without it. So a little respect and acknowledgement is greatly deserving to Rupes for pushing the envelope and creating a game-changing machine, which incidentally wasn't their first nor their last. But so much has happened since its release that has now allowed the Flex and ShineMate to be considered as true contenders. The ShineMate perhaps isn't the clear winner when you take cost and value out of the equation, but quite honestly, I need to reinforce how closely it really is. And when value is placed back into the equation, it's really hard not to see it as the overall winner. The Flex, in my opinion, with cost aside again, is perhaps my overall winner after having a few days to play with it. But as I've said in the past, it will take a few months for me to obtain a more comprehensive and thorough assessment of it. So this is really my initial impression, which nonetheless still has me impressed. But having said that, I'd love to see what a Rupes Mark II Mini would have to offer, and I hope that it's not too far away. I really hope this video allows some of you out there to make a more informed decision if you are on the market for a new mini dual action polisher. These three mini polishers are by no means the only three out there, but they are the three machines that I can personally give you guys a little insight to, so I hope that helps. As always, please like this video and comment on your thoughts below, and if you haven't as yet subscribed to the channel, please do so to show your support. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.